Howdy, folks. I'm Minnie Mulberry Wing, merrily meandering through majestic meadows.
I'm Amber.
And here are more majestic meadows for us to meander through, which I don't really understand because that's kind of like walking. I don't know if butterflies can meander.
I mean, I've seen them walking around on the ground. They got little legs. They can do it.
I guess you're right. It's not like butterflies lose their legs when they become, butterflies. Let's get started. Alright, folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk? I told my mom that she can bill me using the tuition money that she stole from me. When I, a 33-year-old male, was preparing to go to university, my mom confessed that there was no tuition money for me. Through the years, my dad would give her cash to deposit, but she only did the first one. She spent the rest. To be honest, I wasn't even that surprised. I was used to being disappointed by her. She promised that she would pay me back. And asked that I never tell my dad. So for 4 years, I thanked them for the tuition money while I took out loans. For reasons to do with her narcissism, I have had an arm's length relationship with her, but she would say that we're pretty close and she assumed my smiling and nodding while she drones on about the same stories as a relationship. We have a family cottage that she puts above everything else. She lives there about 90 days of the year. I've been going there with my girlfriend for about 4 days for a couple of the summers, which she begrudges as it takes away from her time. My dad supports my going, which is how I pull it off. She recently told me that it was time for me to start paying for some of the maintenance on the cottage since I use it. She actually suggested $1,000, which is wildly disproportionate. I told her that she could take it out of the tuition IOU and that we could negotiate the amount with Dad. She was speechless. She texted me later saying that it was manipulative to bring up the tuition and to threaten to tell Dad. It went on and on and on. I've been thinking about it, and first, I'm hurt and offended that she can't do a nice thing for me. She just has to get something for it. Second, I guess that I'm not really over the whole tuition thing. Would I be the jerk for bringing up ancient history and not paying her for the use of the cottage? I did to add, at the time it had never occurred to me that I should have told them. I thought that I was doing the right thing by protecting both of them. That pretty much summarizes my childhood. Alright folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. And I think it's maybe about time that Dad learns the truth so he can understand the full extent of your mom's manipulation. What she is doing here is not okay. It's very like $1,000 for a 4-day stay is an unreasonable ask, even if there was no lopsided debt to begin with.
Yeah.
But to top it off, the fact that she stole OP's tuition money, I think that she should have just thanked her lucky stars that OP hadn't told or done anything. And so if anyone's, the only person here who's being manipulative is her.
Yeah, I mean, I think that OP should tell their father, and I think that it's not going to be OP's fault if it causes fallout. And the thing is that it's really difficult to blame someone who's in a emotionally abusive relationship, which
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like is the relationship between OP and their mother. She guilted him into not telling their dad. She spent all this money, and she took away opportunities for their own child, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, like you said, instead of being grateful, she repays him for his silence by being like, you need to pay me $1,000 per summer if you're going to use this cottage. Like, all the audacity.
Yeah. And so I know OP says in the letter that she's narcissistic. I don't know if OP is basing that on anything, but it might do her good to work with a therapist if she
Yeah.
does actually have narcissistic personality disorder.
Yeah.
And if she doesn't, it might still help her to work with a therapist to kind of figure out how to have a better relation with people and not make everything so one-sided.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. I'm not going to read this whole chain because I don't think it's that important, but here's some stuff from OP here. Someone asks about how much the house is worth. And OP replies, I'm guessing the cottage is worth about $400,000 today, and my school cost and all was about $35,000. I'm Canadian, if that seems low. And Good Day Sunshine says, is it at least being left to you in their wills? And OP replies, I would like to say that depends on how long my mom lives after my father passes. It is a serious concern what happens when he passes, and she has unfettered access to the money. Well, that's not great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that might, I mean, I hate to be this way, but it might also be good for OP to tell their father this so that maybe they will actually put money aside for them and make sure that there's some kind of money in like a trust for OP so that she can't spend all of it after he passes.
Yeah, well, I'm very confused too because it sounds like the mom and dad are still together.
Yeah, they are together.
Okay, because the way like him giving the mom the money to pay the tuition and then she just stole it, like that's even worse. I mean, I don't know if it's worse, but like the fact that they are still together and she's actively lying to the person she's married to is like
Yeah.
such an act of deception right there. Because at first, when I was reading the letter, it sounded like they were separated,
Yeah.
like, oh, he was sending her money for, as part of their custody agreement or something. But yeah, I don't like this situation. I don't like this mom.
And Red Stapler 4 says, "What did your mom spend the tuition money on?" And OP replies, "Genuinely, I don't believe that it was some kind of addiction. She likes to believe that she's a lady that lunches, so those kinds of things. My girlfriend thinks that she's been hoarding the money." And UTE lawyer says, "Not the jerk, but I'm a bit confused as to why you agreed to keep this a secret from your dad. It isn't clear from your post whether or not your parents are currently married, but either way, it makes no sense to lie to your father. He thinks that he spent money on your education, and for some reason, you went along with this lie." And OP replies, "Long story short, but the money, her spending it, was a huge thing in our family. It still is. My dad would have gone ballistic. I was trying to keep the peace. Also, my mom guilted me big time." And I'm going to skip ahead a couple of comments here. And Lord Loss 01 says, "Might just be one of those things that became her job. If the dad got paid in cash, he might have given her some of it and been like, 'Oh, honey, on your way to the market, can you deposit this into the account that we set up?'" And OP replies, "Yes, dad was in construction, so paid in cash at times. He literally broke his back working. He left the housekeeping stuff to her, which is how we got here. He took control over it once he worked less." And IGW Buffalo says, "Honestly, are your parents separated? Who owns the cottage if so? Joint property or dad's, but let mom use it? Just mom's? I'd be telling dad everything at this point, along with any proof that you have to back it up. Mom has burnt any remaining chance at peace. Time to set a hard boundary." And OP replies, "No, they're still together, very miserable. They both own it, but she sort of claimed it as her own?" So it just sounds like an overall miserable situation.
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, "Am I a jerk for kicking my house guest out 11 hours before their flight is scheduled to leave? My friend and his wife have made plans to visit us this summer for a weekend stay. The flight is 2 hours, so not really a long journey for them. We have our home professionally cleaned regularly and go all in to be good hosts to our guests. However, with any good thing, some people try to take advantage. I usually would take an extra day from work after guests leave to get rest or even tidy up the house a little bit. It's just a peaceful time for me to return to normalcy of our household after being in host mode. Before my friend booked his flight, my husband let it slip that I would not be working the Monday after my friend's stay with us. The next thing I know, my friends are telling me that they will be flying out on a red eye the Monday that I took off for a rest. That means that they will arrive Friday morning early, and then they will leave Monday night late. To that, I responded that I will be taking them to the airport as early as 8 a.m. Monday morning so that I can have my day of rest as I planned. My friend tells me that he doesn't understand why they can't just hang out at our place or have us show them around town more on that Monday since they have a late flight. I explained to them that the day off is for me to rest, not to continue to be their host. I told them that they are more than welcome to leave their luggage here if they want to go explore on their own, but we will not be hosting them or playing tour guide after Monday morning. He goes on to admit that it was a cheaper flight for him to book later on that Monday, and that it's not a big deal for him and his wife just to hang out at my house all day until it's time for them to fly out. Keep in mind that I will have to take them to the airport or pay for a rideshare because he refuses to pay. I will also have to feed them. I told them that they are welcome to visit and stay with us, but staying at our house all day on Monday is not an option and he needs to make other arrangements. He is now accusing me of being a horrible friend, and his wife are saying that we're the jerks. What are your thoughts?" All right, folks, what do you think?
Not the jerk. They invited themselves for extra time without clearing it with the hosts. If they wanted to book a later flight, they should have been like, "Hey, OP, is it okay if we book this?" Like, just because OP does not have that time at work does not mean they can assume that is not valuable time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was very presumptuous of them to be like, "Oh, by the way, you are going to be hosting us some more." I mean,
Hmm.
that's incredibly rude. I don't understand the reasoning or logic here. I think that OP has every right to turn them down because the agreement was to host them for a certain amount of time, and OP already agreed to that time frame. They took some time off of work to specifically decompress, not to hang around with these people more. And it's all right to draw boundaries like this because it's fine, right? They have to respect your time.
Well, that's the thing is like they are being bad guests. Like some people act like if someone is hosting you, they owe you the world, but like no, it's fine to like set clear. This is the time you come. This is the kind of time you leave. That is not cruel. That is just maintaining your space and
Mm-hmm.
and the time you need. You are not a host indefinitely for as long as these people want to be at your house.
Yeah, exactly. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. But folks, let's see what the Wheel of Judgment has to say. Wheel of Judgment, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the judgment that OP's earned. The centrifuge. Maybe they mean the friends. The friends deserve the centrifuge. Somebody in the story deserves the centrifuge, apparently.
Definitely not OP.
Let me know who you think deserves the
I mean, I don't think
centrifuge.
any of them deserve the centrifuge. I think the wheel is on a power trip.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the friends are being bad friends, but like, they just need to not be bad friends anymore. They don't need their centrifuge.
And Tree Hugger Frog Lover says, in quoting OP, keep in mind that I will have to take them to the airport or pay for a ride share because he refuses to pay. I will also have to feed them. No, you don't. You don't have to do any of that. And if you choose to do that, I think you would be making a mistake. Simply tell them that you are offering a ride at 8 a.m. and they can take it or leave it. If they don't accept the ride, that you will be locking them out of your house promptly at 8 a.m. They will not be welcomed back at any point for any reason, and you will not be providing transportation past that time. They can decide if they want to pay for their own ride or just remain stranded in a city where they have no place to stay. Shouldn't change your plans at all either way. And OP replies, I didn't think of this. He's not going to risk missing their flight, and he's certainly not going to pay for an Uber. Airport shuttle, me, leaves at 8 a.m. You better be in the car if you want a ride to the airport. Doesn't even have to be the airport. And Material Monitor 6423 says, this was terrible advice. You would lock them out of the house? This isn't an Airbnb. They are friends, supposedly. I agree, though, that your time is yours. You had your day planned, and you shouldn't be on call as taxi. What do you think of those two comments?
There are people who overstay their welcome. I don't think there's anything wrong with just locking them out of your house once they've overstayed their welcome. It seems like they, again, invited themselves to stay longer without asking OP. So I don't know why the second commenter is saying that OP would be like a jerk for kicking them out at closing time.
Well, I think some of it is that they think that you should be a good host, even if it means just letting them, hang out at the house. It's a difficult situation because it doesn't really bode well for the friendship because these friends aren't respecting OP.
Right. And like, do you want to like? I feel like sometimes people use the idea of good hosting as like a way of like taking too much and use that threat in the way that like, oh, you can't rock the boat, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's all about making things as comfortable as possible for the people who are making things uncomfortable.
Yeah, again, like I think this is challenging because certainly like it's good to be a good host and be a good friend, but they're not being good friends back, and I think that that's kind of the hard part of the situation is that OP, what happens if OP wasn't even planning on being home during that time, right? They're just assuming that OP was going to host them because they took the Monday off,
Mm-hmm.
right? They didn't consider why OP took that time off when they
Well,
make their plans.
and it shows you how little they value OP's time.
Yeah.
They were only thinking about themselves and what's cheaper and more convenient for them.
Yeah.
And so, it's going to probably hurt the friendship to do this, but the friendship may need it because they are not being good friends.
Yeah. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Asking My In-Laws to Stay in a Hotel Instead of Our Already Crowded Apartment? My in-laws are visiting for a week and automatically assume that they would be staying with us. The problem is that my husband and I live in a small 2-bedroom apartment with our 2 kids, and we already are tight on space. The last time they stayed here, it was chaos, zero privacy, boundaries constantly being pushed, and way too much stress on everyone, including the kids. So this time around, I try to get ahead of the situation and gently suggest that they get a hotel nearby. I even found a really nice one, reasonably priced, and offered to pitch in and help cover the cost. We've been doing okay financially lately, and I had a little extra cash come in from a small bet win, and I wanted to use it to make things easier for everyone. But instead of being open to it, they got offended. They insisted that we have plenty of room and said that it's ridiculous to spend money on a hotel when they're family. They also made some passive-aggressive comments about me not wanting to be around them, which isn't true at all. I just remember how draining and disruptive their last visit was, and I'm trying to avoid a repeat of that, especially with our kids' routines being impacted. My husband is stuck in the middle. He understands why I don't want them staying here, but he also doesn't want to upset his parents. Now I feel like I'm being painted as unreasonable, trying to maintain some boundaries and peace in our home. Am I the jerk for standing my ground and asking them to stay at a hotel instead of cramming into our apartment for a full week? All right, folks, what do you think?
Not the jerk, but I think your husband needs to grow a backbone because these are his parents. He should be dealing with them. You do not have the space to host these people. Like, you have kids and a married couple of adults who live in your house in only 2 bedrooms. Those bedrooms are all taken. Having people in your living room is inconvenient, and it sounds like they are violating your boundaries and everyone is getting uncomfortable. You have to make sure that, like, yes, sometimes it's okay to put people in uncomfortable situations temporarily, but you don't need to be putting that unnecessary stress on you and your children.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really what it boils down to. I think that OP has made a very reasonable request. They said, "Oh, can you stay in a hotel because our apartment just doesn't have the room." And I mean, I can understand though why they would feel a little hurt by that because they probably are expecting, them to be able to spend more time with them, and in a hotel, it's going to be you're not going to be able to spend as much time around the kids if you wanted to like read them bedtime stories or something like that, maybe. I don't know. But it's a challenging situation. I understand where OP is coming from, and I think that they're going to be the people who kind of know best about what the stress of the household can kind of tolerate. So I don't think the parents should be getting offended by this.
Well, and I mean, an alternative is OP takes the kids to a hotel for the time, and husband can do all the hosting duties. Because I wonder who does the majority hosting duties, who's making the food,
Yeah.
who's making sure negotiating all the fights and everything. If hubby is just like doing nothing, just existing occasionally for a meal and stuff, maybe it's time he steps up and handles the hosting duties.
Yeah, that might be a good point. He could be kind of slacking on his end of things. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. Alright folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke.
What might you say about a grumpy feline?
Oh, I would say that they were a grumpy cat and that they are a meme, and that's really what I would say about them.
They're being cantankerous.
Oh, Cantankerous.
And it's National Cat Lady Day.
Ooh.
It's also Husband Appreciation Day.
Oh, so go find yourself a cantankerous cat lady, and then also it's her husband, I guess, maybe.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yes. Husband Appreciation for Brian.
Well, I'm glad you appreciate me. And I have Earl Grey. Alright folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Spectacular Saturday, folks. I hope your Saturday is off to a spectacular start. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please have it on being a good guest or a host.
Don't invite yourself to people's houses for extra time or at all without clearing it with the homeowners first.
Yeah, that's probably sound advice. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye!
Let me wipe my glasses down real quick and then I'll start reading. Once upon a time, there was a Brian, and he had to clean his glasses. So he used one of these little tiny microfiber cloths on his already scratched glasses, thinking that they would somehow save them from becoming even more scratched and damaged. The moral of this story is if your glasses are already scratched, no amount of microfibering them will change that fact.